here from Belladonna's Botanicals, and this is going to be called Black Magic, a Love Story. And this is part of my Occult Origin Stories playlist. So what I had done, I'm sorry, it took me a while. If you watch some of the previous videos I did a couple months ago, I had to go through about 20 volumes of things I wrote back in the 1990s. So I had written prolifically, at least like I would fill one of these a year. Some years I did about three. I pulled out the ones because what I had done as I was going through these was I wanted to kind of trace back because I in some of the ones I had done readings from. Most of those were later in the 90s. There was a lot of stuff that was in there that was witchcraft oriented or had to do with my spirituality or prophecy or something like that. So what I decided to do was go through the rest of the books to see just how far back that went. Because a lot of people I get a lot of questions about that, and a lot of people really enjoyed the origin stories, videos, and things. So this was from the first book called The Beginning of the End. Early poems from 1991 and a few from 1990. I was a big fan of making, I used to do my own covers, so this was just like random, I'm now reading this is pretty funny. Pain Fetish Terror, the 1990s. Surgeon General's Warning, Society Penis. Death, Passion, Pink. State of Mind, Slut Love. Politically Correct, Kills the Psychomagnet. Take Another Look at And Life Still Perversion. Change the World, X-Rated God. So yeah, I don't even know what magazines these are from. Probably whatever I happen to have in the 90s. Orgasm Power. Anywho, so what I did was I went through and I earmarked them, so I'll have to flip through them. So interestingly enough, when in the previous video I did, or the most recent one I did on from atheism, agnosticism to spirituality, I talked about when the point at which I had a big to the Catholic Church and kind of self-excommunicated. And it was interesting that it coincides because I knew it was around May of 1991. And the first poem I had in here that I wrote, okay, now I'm going to preface this by saying I was 15 years old and it was 1991. So please forget. And judging by what I read from back then, I would have made an awesome death metal band lyricist. So anyways, bad poetry, suck it up, buttercup. So the first this is the poem I wrote in here. This was the first one that really kind of like solidified, I think, my path in a way. It's called A Prayer to the Father Down Below. In the name of the Father, down below, his bastard son and the evil spirit, I beseech you to do evil unto others as they invoke upon you. Offer up the sacrifice, the flesh and blood of man. As the fire burns, we are taught to learn that evil exists in all man. Burn the book of worlds, false prophecies from beyond. Burn the holy sacrifice of God, the flesh and blood of all man. Burn the cross of God's only son. That is a reference, not like three letters that go in a row that start with the letter K. That's not a reference to that. That was like it's a Christianity thing, not like, go do what that particular group does in very bad ways. Anywho. So later this year, this was something I wrote in 1990. And one of the things I had noticed, like going through, I don't know if I earmarked all of them, is that it seemed like I was always going through this battle between the angels and demons, even back then. So this one is called Vision Revelation. It says original 1990. The end of time envisioned upon one's prophet's mind. She opened her eyes to see heaven's gates opening, enveloping the souls of those currently alive and expulsing the souls of those who have died. That's interesting. Vision Revelation. She sees her creatures roaming about in search of the sacrifice most holy. The lamb's blood is shed upon the four horsemen. Seven seals are open. Seven signs are revealed. Her victorious martyrs have found heaven's peace at last. Through their deaths brought change. Beneath her feet, earthquakes shake the earth and they crumble her cities to the ground. She watched as the sun's light turned to darkness and as her beloved moon turned to blood. This feels very Lilithian in a way. And I did write a lot of like end of the world prophecy kind of stuff back then. Um, because, continuing on. The stars leapt suicide from the sky. Silence fell upon the heavens and earth, and there were no souls left to be born. Her angels seven sounded trumpets sevenfold. Fires burned the earth as the sea dies, and her creatures die. Locusts prey upon the barren husk of what was once earth. The fate was sealed by her condemning God. Fire, smoke, sulfur, everyone dies and suffers, and she becomes an angelic woman adorned in the sun with the moon beneath her feet, wearing a crown of stars, 7,7. Blood flowing from the birth about to take place, the last birth. A demon was sent forth to destroy this child. He came from beneath the sea and waged war upon humanity, killing all who refused his name, enveloping all light, and bringing forth perpetual darkness. She poured 7 bowls onto the earth, turning misery and bringing upon the end. So, yeah. That's, it's interesting because it's... I went to Catholic school, so not for nothing. I think the only book of the Bible I actually read was the Book of Revelation. I know, too much to the shock of no one ever. So I was always kind of fascinated with that sort of motif, but it was interesting that I wrote it from like the end of the world from the female perspective. Because let's face it, the Roman Catholicism is very man heavy. So the next book we have is called A Myriad of Darkness. And look at my fancy handwriting. And this is the front of the cover. That was in front of an antique store in Philly. I don't think it's still there, but I always liked it. I always called it the Caged Goddess. So this is from February 1992. And again, now I'm now 16. So it's interesting reading back on these things because it gives me some insight into like who I was and like who and how I became this person. So that's why it's Black Magic, a love story. God and Satan are one and the same. Together they disguise the truth with holy lies. For there to be a greater power, there must be an equal opposing force seeking to destroy its polar opposite. God and Satan are a two-way mirror. Each exists in the other's opposition. The word that we are obligated to believe deceives us. The truth has succumbed to a bitter end. God and Satan are one, united in an unholy bond of flesh and fire. Evil rears its head and its beauty on the darkness of night, on the endless road of which you have embarked upon. God and Satan twisted into form, conforming ideas and contorting notions, led into the light only to find darkness awaiting at the end of the tunnel. The voice is nestled so deep into the darkest corner of your mind, whispering sweet words, screaming cool words that tear deep into one's soul. There is no heaven. There is no hell. And now, on that motif, we have a poem from March of 1992 called Heaven and Hell. So it's interesting that I was like thinking about things in a more philosophical sense, even at the age of 16, and questioning things. So heaven and hell are the answers to questions that we cannot begin to understand or comprehend. In today's world, we are brought up to question what we do not understand. For each question asked, we demand an answer, even if it isn't right. We are taught to believe many things, but many things we are taught may not be true. As humans, we need to know what is in store for us after we die, and heaven and hell are the answers to those questions that we ask. Heaven can be what we want it to be. It can be the things we love in life, a deep spiritual peace. Hell can be everything that we fear or hate. Some people fear death because they're afraid of what the afterlife has in store for them. You cannot live in fear of death, and you cannot be ignorant of it either. Death is a beautiful thing, as is living. If you want heaven, then that is what you will get. And if you want hell, then so be it. I mean, these aren't like the greatest works of literature or anything. I was like 15 or 16 years old, but here we are. So, later in 1992, was I now 17? 16? No, maybe okay. So I was almost 16 in that one. Now I'm a day over 16, and this one seems very Lilithian. It's called The Fuck Goddess. The fuck goddess herself came down and became flesh and devoured human desire, animalistic ritual, dancing wildly on fire. How insane can we go? Exquisite pain, blood-covered flesh, feeding the savage beast, uncontrolled, untamed. Open wounds become the target of bittersweet fame. I think this was also in my unfortunately tragic Jim Morrison poetry phase. So there's some really awful stuff in here. All right. All right. Okay. Sorry, this is a little hard to read because I wrote it in metallic gold ink. Genius. It's called Temptress. Voodoo queen, temptress of the night, the mistress of darkness, steal away all the light, lying in a pool of blood. Cast your spell, a dark shadow be fallen upon the light, unholy heaven. She screams out in vain tonight. The angels have become sinners, the sinners they sin no more. Temptress of the dark, lascivious tongues of lust, tasting evil from its roots. Oh, I guess I was very dualistic in the good and evil sense then. Tasting the juice of the forbidden fruit, temptress of the unholy name, the kiss of death from evil in the flesh. She wallows in a pool of self-demise. As darkness falls and morning arises, the temptress sleeps. Feels Lilithy again. Oh, here's another one. This one's called Satan's Lullaby. As Satan sings his lullaby, his soulless children scream and cry. I'll kill for love, but die for no one. All is lost on the dawn of my own Holocaust. From the dawn of time through all these desolate ages, spirits rage, vast and endless fury, violent sex for virgin statues. Anger cuts through my veins. I can be you in a dream. Within a silent silk scream, love cuts your throat with the sharpest of daggers as Satan sings his most heartfelt lullaby. All his soulless children cry. They wilt like flowers. Without fire, they die. I told you I'd make a good death metal lyricist. But what I'm finding is, what I see, through these years is, even though I kind of like, when, I was starting to explore more like metaphysical stuff, and then I was also like, dipped out of the Roman Catholic nonsense, but obviously still been indoctrinated into that sort of lore or mythology, and was dipping more into like the atheistic Gnostic things, that, there was still this like push and pull and this like fight for my soul kind of way. So this one also this is from July 1992. Obscured Vision was the name of it. Death, destruction, lies, a mental symphony soothes my silent cries. Agony deepens within. Hatred turns out to be a best friend. Envy, I want you to be. Ignorance, I'm blind and cannot see you. Lust, I want to touch you, feel you. The truth always hides in the lies. I am much more than what you see. I drank the blood of Christ. I ate his body. Now Jesus is in me. I tasted his flesh as sacrifice. I tasted Satan's temptation. I drank the blood, and now I am one. I see death in the eyes of the divine. I see the other side of heaven. I saw hell. All the gods fell and rose in the garden of sin. Heaven's door and hell's gate welcome all those who believe. I saw hell. I saw the devil. I rode his horns. I became a demon with a holy soul. I came more than Christ, more than Satan. I became my own God. Trademark. No, anyways. Inside my mind, hidden behind this obscured vision. My demons. That's the next one. Sorry, I just want to throw that back in there. So if I ever decide to look for them again, I know where they are. This one's called Mad Demons from August 1992. I got these little demons running around inside my head, screaming rage. Little demons set me free, enraged like a beast locked inside a cage. Little demons feasting on the flesh of every emotion, twisting, contorting, every conformed notion. Volcanic explosions of angered emotion. My demons got a hold of my soul. They pull my strings. Helpless I may be, held captive, a prisoner to their conformed realities. I got these little demons in skirts and that's an interesting way to put it. I got these little demons in skirts and drag inside my head. Some days they make me laugh. Some days they get out of hand. And how? And how? That was something different. So this is Seasons of the Witch from 1993. We've got some more and blue contact paper. So we got some more stuff. All right, let's see what we have here. Goddess. This is from September 1993. The goddess spoke and all fell to their knees and burst into flames. The cross we bear burns, as does the something flesh, does our flesh. Like a fantasy, the eye is an abyss of swirling heaven or hell, the colors of pain, the colors of pleasure, swirl amongst the mind's notion that it just can't be real. The goddess spoke, and her magenta hair fell against her naked breast, and all was said, I was dead and about to be laid to rest. I think I have a painting of that. I found something that. Oh no, wait. I'm trying to remember. Do I still have that? I have one. I had this dress and I cut the bottom off and then I used it to I painted it. And I painted this really pretty goddess with this like the magenta hair. So, anyways, I'm just pulling. These are like. Look, it's a little poem on that I typed on a typewriter in 1994, and I probably I would say that I stained like I did like a wash of the paper with like watercolor, and then it looks like I tried to like burn it to give it some like cool effect or something. All right, so this is now Jinxed Poems for the Antichrist. 1994 and 95. The ghosts of my past remain here to haunt me. And again, we have another awesome cover of random images from magazines. Let's see what I have here. Try to figure which poem I'm. Oh, this was an interesting one because this is 1995. Our year, the war of sometimes more or less. The Morrigan over our guest, her guidance over war, whatever for you, your friends, or what we leave behind. I was not aware I even knew who the Morrigan was in 1995. So that was interesting. Like when I say sometimes these like these spirits and these gods and goddesses stuff have been coming to me for a very long time. This is how I know. This is just the way I wrote it is the way I wrote stuff on this page is very weird. There's like 4 or 5 different things. Let's go over. Oh, I wrote about hand fasting in 1995. Within a midnight grove, beneath a full pregnant moon, a circle of stones is cast, surrounding 2 souls separate, becoming one. Wrapped in flowers and antiqued white linen, together we call upon the elements to be witness to our commitment. Sipping honeyed wine from a hand-fasting chalice, which we raise to the goddess of many names and the horned god. As the veil between the worlds is lifted, we see our love as in the past, as in the present, as in the future. Solid as the earth, changing as the air, passionate as the fire, and pure as the water. Opening the circle to begin life anew, sipping honeyed wine from full moon to full moon. Wasn't that lovely? This was probably around the time that I started getting more into it. Like I was taking like an intro to Wicca 101 or something like that at a local metaphysical shop. But what's interesting with the honey, the reference to the honeyed wine from full moon to full moon. The reason it's called a honeymoon was because like a common thing was they like the bride and groom were given honey wine that they would drink they were supposed to consume between the two full moons between. So that's why it was called the honeymoon. I'm probably oversimplifying that in a way. I don't know that I necessarily have anything to. Oh, that's an interesting. Okay. So, whose belly is in your home when all turns too soon? Lonely Demeter awaiting for the return of her beloved Persephone. I fell away from the world, something to the belly we call home. But was interesting, not so much the poem and whatnot, is that this is some of the earlier when I talk about like the sigils and the random kind of language that I still do these to this day. That's one of the earlier references to it. I think there's some from like 1994 as well. It's just kind of like what happens when like I'll just kind of zone out and just kind of like that's just what comes out like when I do that. So I think that was mostly why I do that. So the next book is Poems from Over the Edge. That was 1995 as well. And we have a wonderful cover which says What to Do to Go to Hell. And it's got Miss Piggy, Jesus Christ, Bootsy Collins, Marilyn Manson, and the Queen of England. And the back, hell, suppose it's all true, and it's filled with Hanson. Anyways. Okay, so this, I don't know if I had gone through any of this in some of the other writings, but so this is where you can start seeing where I'm writing, I'm channeling things and writing in other languages. Here are those wacky sigils again. It seems to pervade throughout. I don't know what this says. Shea Mara Leabat Sheap Solkandamana Ta Lai Abat Tiamesha Lia Apsul Kandal Shansi Da Inculade Imla Sink Desu Shamli Absulu Donami Herdiskan Script on Toma Shiitza Miahu Ria Consolami Insis Apri Mala San Mala Con Belaba in Aqui Lom Atsu Liam Loam Sia Kanta Paru Lia Stalis. And then it goes into scribbles. No idea what that means. But evidence of me just, here's another one. So more gibberish and the symbols. Yamatame Shirithau Loso Mia Shu Feram Megna Lium Inc. Del Samaliatuam Shiish Go Ish Gdansk. In Russia. Miatu in Saferu Yamatume Ferre Sheath Miata Tu in Abrum Sangtu Uvi Volu Tu Patis Name Inc. Da Insk Shir Into Tiamepe Mia. I probably just summoned some great something from somewhere by this. So oops. I don't know what these, I honestly just do not know. So I think it's like sometimes I will sound, because I know I've done that before. I've sounded things out phonetically to kind of get them into English. I don't know if that is what these are kind of translating to or anything in there. But some of these symbols are very common. Like this one I do a lot. I know these are backwards on here for you, but Um, yeah. And again, this is like 1995. So now we are into the Poison Book, which I love. The fact so the story behind the cover of this book is my brother used to work at, like, I don't know, like a Rite Aid or something like that. So he stole all the poison stickers from the pharmacy. And then there's also what I love about this is the Jesus sticker, and then all the not to be taken by mouth um, stickers that also were absconded with from the pharmacy. So, and this is called Poems from the Pink Period, or the Poison Book. Um, so it's got some nifty little things in here, but let's see what this is. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Oh. Interesting. When I've in some of the previous videos I did, I talked about like the past life experiences, and one of them was as a girl who was named Camille Christiana. So that was what this was. I drew her grave, and what that looked like in my mind, and it says, "Death said she makes me feel quite real." I think there's some stuff in here later. What color is this? The purple ones are something different. No, maybe there isn't. All right. I think that was the only thing in that one that I had of note. Don't worry, we're down to the last two, because the rest of them I've covered in other videos, so I don't want to be like overly redundant. So, okay, so this one is from January 1999. So this refers to, I think it is the video that I did called Selected Scenes from the End of the World. It's also in the Occult Origin Story playlist. It's called 2013. So everything I'd written in that book of prophecy was and I'm really curious as to what the catalyst was in 2013. Now that 2013 was 10 years ago, and this was written in 1999, so that was 14 years previous. So, but it seems like whatever I was writing in my book of prophecy, the catalyst for it started in 2013, and it was kind of like all in the time after that. So it says 2013 will end all your laughter and petty preoccupation with stuff of useless origin and decline. I can say no more of sunny days, midsummer days gone away as millions turn to dust. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Dust for offerings and bones for reverence. There really was an end after all. So it seems like whatever prophecy was coming, like that was where it started. Like, these things aren't necessarily something that happens like boom overnight. It was like a series of things that leads us to where we are. So this is also April 1999. And yet we have some more, who the fuck knows what language this is. And also a really cool little sigil up in the corner. So, Ilia labra soma, cinco mopium maya suma, leautia samesu, nu prai dun sigemela sula tiamon etele solie sola shina samu moro condu et libriel sontiel tia samesha absterut dumla Sili condu et ludumanum pethameni bon mortis emelibri sona schmeta fong sorano gibishira dile udum su con mic nick lanu mashkent et Sili spiritus lang oboliska na darova. Seems like a mishmash of a whole bunch of different languages. Meta. It's not Meta as in the Facebook company. Oh, this is about an experience I had like several years earlier. I was a person's spirit guide's name. Within a forest grove, I knew your fear of him, and his ill will sent out from afar. My eyes closed and my mind open. Before me, as I flutter fast paced through this enhanced consciousness, I raised my eyes to a white floating dress nailed to a cross, her thin vaporous figurine filling in the emptiness. I knew she would protect me and you. She said her name was Meta. I saw his malicious ill will manifested in the flames beneath the cross, and I am chased by and torn by two featureless creatures masked in black, and my fear could not speak upon waking. Within the forest I run, tumbling down hills and through these trees scraping me. I must awake, for I fear his wrath, but and by the altar he built to do us in by ritual ill will. But all that you do will come back to you. And when my eyes open and my mouth can expel no words, for fear has kept my tongue silent, his anger manifested. I knew she would guide us and protect us, for she could not be harmed, for she is the spirit lingering between dream and reality. So that one, that goes back to experience from, I think, 1993-ish. My college roommate was dating this dude who was crazy, but he was also like very much into like black magic and working with demons and stuff like that. I think his name is TJ. Anywho, they were constantly fighting and stuff, like, because he lived out of state and stuff like that, and was crazy. Like literally was like would be calling all night. Like constantly. I'm like, dude, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. Fuck off. I don't know if she broke up with him at the time. It's a little hazy, but he was like trying to do some stuff against us. Like, I guess this was the first time someone tried to curse me. Anyways, so in that, I kind of went into this weird state. Like, she was there. No, she'd already broken up with him because I think she was hanging out. We were hanging out. There's another friend of ours that were there, and I kind of just like lapsed out of consciousness in the middle of hanging out with people in our dorm room. And like I was sort of half consciousness, but I was like deep in like probably like in like the astral realm or something like that. And that's where like Meta was her spirit guide. So that's where I kind of, but I was being chased by these like shadowy demonic figures and stuff like that. But when I awoke from that, I literally couldn't speak. Like my eyes were fluttering and I was like hyperventilating, and my friend was like, "Are you okay?" Like trying to bring me back and out of it. Like he understood what was going on. And I was just like, "Holy crap." I'm not sure why I marked this page. No idea. I think it's sort of like, I think I marked this just because it's kind of got the sigils and weird words on again. But then I wrote something over it, so it's really hard to read. And last but not least, so you can kind of start to see some of the transitions. Like I didn't go through all of them. There's a lot of stuff I wrote early on about like the angels and demons and stuff like that. Oh, sorry, that was something completely different. So now we're into the late 1990s. This is August 1999. Cycles of death and rebirth. I know that I've lived before and died before. Names and faces unknown. I've seen the changes of millenniums before. I've seen Egypt flourished. I've bathed in the Nile. Have seen the pyramids built by technologies we cannot even begin to comprehend. I've seen Greece in its glory and philosophy. I've seen the rise of Rome, its fall, and all that lies in between, the birth of Christ, the falling away of the old religions. I've seen his death and resurrection and never believed. I've seen Rome fall and the disintegration. I've seen the dark ages and the persecutions, the loss of knowledge and technology. I've slept in catacombs for fear of death and persecution were great. I've seen the dark turn to light from the Middle Ages to medieval times. I've seen the great pestilence and plague. I've seen Europe's death and resurrection. I've seen the rise of modernity, the slow succession of reason and discovery. I've seen inquisitions and have drowned and burned at the stake, a heretic, a heathen, a witch. I've died for the denial of Christendom, for holy wars, for man's perversion of God's will. I've seen Europe flourish, have seen the struggle between the aristocracy and peasantry. I've maneuvered through ages and eras, renaissances, enlightenments, Elizabethan, Baroque, and Rococo, Victoriana. I have seen kings and queens slain, ages end, new ones begin. I've seen the grandeur fall away in the pride of industry and war. I've seen wars waged for religions, right or wrong. I've seen death, beautiful death, industries rise, populations flourish. I've seen the end of eras and the 20th century's birth, its pestilence, its genocide, its disaster, its persecution, its overpopulation, its technology, its discovery, its final obscurity. And what does the future hold, as in the patterns and all paths followed? Death and rebirth, falls of great empires, deaths of world leaders, plagues nouveau, wars infinite, death and rebirth. Nope, we've got yet some more scribbles from 1999. It's interesting that these have just followed me for so long. The eyes are a window to the soul. Through the eyes, all truth can be seen beyond the veil. Innocent guilt, judgments known. Not the most. Was that the? Boop, 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 boop. Anyways, so that's kind of where it ended. But I just. There's a lot of themes that I wrote about back then. I mean, I didn't go into every single one because, some were quite terribly written. And some would be hard to phrase using words I did that were acceptable at the time, that now would probably be cancelable or shadow bannable or something. Just because, expressions change. We talk about things differently now than we did then. We were a lot more real about things and frank about them, and whatever. I'm Gen X. We'd be like that. But there was a lot of thematic things that I wrote about then. The struggles with angels and demons, like trying to understand like different. And some of these are in other videos. This was just kind of the stuff that didn't make it into those videos. But how different. There was a lot of things that were references like to Lucifer or Abaddon, Morgan in that one. There's things that I'm like, well, that sounds very Lilithian. So there's a lot of these things that kind of thematically the stuff with like past lives, a lot with apocalyptic visions and prophecy. I really want to do a deeper dive into kind of like, what was it now that we're past 2013? What was the catalyst in 2013 that is causing those things to happen? And maybe I'll link that video below too if you want to watch that. But anyways, it's getting late here, so I think this is probably at this point the last video I need to do for the occult origin story playlist, unless I discover something else that needs to be added in there. But I think I covered all my bases. Lots of dramatic readings and things like that. So thank you if you've watched this, enjoyed the series. Thank you for watching. I love telling my story. Um, and it's actually been a lot of self-discovery for me too, because what I realized, having gone through like 20 volumes of books that I wrote, because of I have some significant memory loss, and my timelines are really fucked up in my memory, due to some of the PTSD that I incurred in the mid 1990s. Um, so I am trying. That's one of the things I'm working with Abaddon on right now, as I'm recording this video, doing some past life regressions and some shadow work and things like that to recover some of those memories. And it comes in little waves and little clips here and there. Like I'll remember something like, for the love of I don't even know what, at some point in time in like 96 or 97, I went to church like twice, maybe 3 times of my own. Things were so bad, I went to church. Remember how I left the church in the early 1990s? That's how fucked up shit was. And my parents gave me a Bible that had my name engraved on it. I think I to be honest, I'm pretty sure I threw it out at some point in time. Like, it just had a traumatic association for me. And not that I needed a Bible with my name on it, because ew. Sorry, but anyways, so yeah, it's bringing some stuff back for me and in timelines, because like there's just things I don't. And it's not only just the that it was like 30 some years ago in some cases, but it's like my timelines are just messed up, and what I'm working on, this is gonna be in a longer video in and of itself, but, like, it also took away a lot of the good memories I have too of people. So that's what I'm trying to work on getting back. Like, I don't really want the trauma memories back. I'm trying to get the good memories back as well. So far so good. It's been working. But anyways, thank you for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I love you all.